Season of Defiance has 6 new weapons to go get the patterns for, and credit to Bungie for making the pattern acquisition process much less annoying in the Lightfall era. Defiant keys give you a chance to get a red border or high stat piece of armor from the chest at the end of a Defiant battleground. I've been getting a lot of red borders. I have probably half of these weapons already craftable, which is awesome. But let's get to why you're here. Your weapon rolls are bad, you feel bad, let's make them good. Let's start with Raconteur, the Stasis Kinetic Bow. Unsurprisingly, my favorite here is still Archer's Tempo. Archer's Tempo has more or less been the bow perk to go get since bows came out many years ago. Shooting faster means that's good. So I don't even think there's anything in the first column besides maybe stats for all that I care about whatsoever, maybe Wellspring, but I'm going Archers. Shoot to loot is definitely an option for you Master and GM content runners though, more of a specialty thing, not really needed for general play. In the second column, Explosive Head for that PvE damage bump is pretty solid, along with Headstone for any sort of stasis builds you might want to be using if you are not using Agar Scepter or Verglas Curve, the new Season 20 exotic bow, for whatever reasons. Are things like Rampage and Successful Warm-Up also okay? Of course they are. They are totally reasonable perks to use as well. But the role I'm looking for here would be Archers and probably Explosive, unless I'm running Stasis where I want Headstone. And we're going to go for some form of Arrow Shaft. Whatever says Arrow Shaft is good. And Tactile or Agile String. Draw Time, Masterwork is fine. Perpetualis is the Strand Auto Rifle, 600 RPM. Good RPM for an auto. Now, the raid does have a Demolitionist Hatchling role on its Strand Auto Rifle, but fortunately, this gun can get some good rolls as well if you don't have access to the raid. Obviously, the main appeal here is Hatchling for any sort of Strand-based builds, although I would argue that Hatchling is more important on Warlock than Titan or Hunter because Warlocks are sort of built around Threadlings. Alright, don't get too ahead of ourselves. First column first. Envious Assassin seems very appealing. Loads more ammo into the gun, but you gotta get some kills with other weapons, and they gotta be rapid kills. If you're using a machine gun, then Envious Assassin is a good perk on other guns like this one. But I don't think it's the insta-lock perk that some people may think it is on primary style weapons. It's good though. Keep Away is another solid option, but I think it kind of depends on the content. You're using an auto rifle here, you do need to be somewhat close to things, and that might prevent this perk from activating in certain pieces of content. Elemental Capacitor, not really for Strand in my opinion, not for PvE anyway. I'm probably still going Envious here. The rest of the roster's actually kind of eh. Second column, Hatchling, if we're doing a Threadling build. If we're not, it's not like it's the worst choice you could possibly make, and I think a lot of people are going to go for it anyway. Target Lock I'm not sold on unless you're doing higher level content where things aren't going to die as quickly, and I do mean not as quickly. I would say don't sleep on Golden Tricorn because Strand can proc Golden Tricorn ×2 really easily, and that's a very significant damage boost that can have a lot of uptime. Demolitionist is also not too bad of an idea here, but if I'm getting demo, then I'm probably just going to use the raid auto, which feels like a laser beam in comparison to this thing. Go for Arrowhead Break, Accurized Rounds, and a range Masterwork. Royal Executioner, a Solar Fusion, 660 charge speed, pretty solid speed. First one since Dreambreaker, been a while. Something that looks quite appealing is Envious Assassin and Reservoir Burst. You overflow the magazine with Envious. Now you're getting bonus Reservoir Burst shots without having to reload. What's not to love about that? And Envious makes a bit more sense on this gun versus a primary weapon because the primary weapon is the thing you'll be using the most, at least in theory anyway, or you're using a machine gun, but you know the concept's the same. The only other thing I'd want is maybe trying out Incandescent instead of Reservoir Burst for some Scorch plays. You're killing 2 enemies at once with 1 burst, you can spread Scorch quite quickly. If you want to do some PvP, Firmly Planted is the way to go in the first column. We're going to go for Arrowhead Break, Accelerated Coils, or Enhanced Battery, and Masterwork, reload speed, maybe, probably. Prodigal Return, a non-wave frame arc special GL. Gonna be tough to beat out Salvager Salvo. Let's see what we got. Well, I think a lot of people are going to see Envious and Volt Shot, and you're just going to call it a day. I don't know 100% about that, though. If you do want to go with Envious, then I would say Volt Shot has a bit of negative synergy. Volt Shot asks you to reload a lot to make the most of it, but the whole point of Envious is to sort of use it like an auto-loading holster type perk. I'd probably pick something else like Demolitionist if I'm going with Envious, even if Demo only gets you 10% energy per kill on special GLs. Lead from Gold is also not too bad of an idea here, just to keep ammo counts high. If you do want Volt Shot, then I would want stuff that increases reload speed to just lay out as many grenades as possible, even going as far as picking up Field Prep if you remember to crouch, although Field Prep is not the most conducive perk if you use a grenade launcher like I do, which usually involves a lot of jumping up and down. Even Threat Detector, a lot of content out there now that has you completely surrounded by enemies. This should be up quite often. Definitely got to take Blinding or Disorienting Grenades, I think they're called now. Something like Disorient, Envious, Demo works quite well. If you want Volt Shot, focus on reload speed. Don't think you need Spike Grenades here. This is not a power GL where you're pumping out tons of single target damage. Power weapons. Let's do the sword first. Caretaker. I'm not too much of a sword guy. My sword knowledge is not up to snuff, as the last time I cared about swords was when Relentless Strikes and Whirlwind Blade was the strat on basically everything. Although they still kind of are somewhat the strat for people who just want to wail on something. First column, we do have Relentless Strikes here. I'm also noticing Tireless Blade as well. Both ammo restoring perks. Relentless good for bosses, Tireless for ads, but Relentless is also not too bad for ads. Second column, Valiant Charge is leading the way right now in popularity, and beyond the eager edgelords trying out some new tech, I'm not exactly sure the viability of this outside of the movement tech world. Pretty much everything else that you can get on this thing is definitely viable in some form. Assassin's Blade, more damage after a kill. Incandescent, it's incandescent, and on a sword, it's probably going to treat you pretty well. Surrounded, more damage. One for All, more damage. I love One for All in general. If I'm making this thing, I'm just going like Relentless Strikes and One for All or something, because I don't guard with swords. I don't do anything special with swords. I go unga bunga with the sword, just swipe, swipe, swipe until they die or I die. I got Eager Edge on something else if I want that. Balanced Guard's good. Hungry Edge, Jagged Edge, I believe also good. Then we come to the meme itself. Regnant, Pregananant, Pegnate, Void Grenade Launcher. Everyone, pre-Lightfall, was farming that Wendigo God roll. And this thing can get some good rolls, much like Wendigo could. Like what, Datto? First column, auto-loading or Envious Assassin are the top choices, but for different reasons. You want auto-loading for any sort of weapon swap meta or in stuff where you want the convenience of an auto-reload, and you want Envious for times where you need the ability to lay into something with as many grenades as humanly possible, or also want the convenience of some auto-loading. It varies from activity to activity in terms of what you actually want or need though. Second column, the choice is quite clear, Explosive Light. Orbs drive one of the main engines of build crafting right now, and therefore Orbs of Power should basically be everywhere, which means you might as well just be getting a near permanent damage bonus to your grenade launcher. The only other thing I'm considering is destabilizing rounds, which is purple incandescent more or less, but I'm still not sold on the purchase yet, not until I try out some void build stuff in the future. Spike Grenade is a good choice, provided you're hitting targets directly with grenades, but most other things aren't too great. And then we would like some sort of blast radius increase, with the masterwork being up to you for the most part. Handling is good for both auto-loading and Envious. Velocity is fine. Blast radius is fine. Probably don't need reload though. Those are your Season 20 guns. Happy hunting. Again, should be a bit easier to collect the set this time around, which is great news for you procrastinators out there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.